If you want to stop losing and start winning more in trading card games, there's one important habit you need to build. And today I'm going to show you exactly what it is. I'm Platinum Point, and today we're going to be talking about how to improve through watching pros play. So before we begin with this topic, I just wanted to say thank you again for watching my previous videos. For those who haven't, I encourage you guys to watch it. It was actually a deck profile on my SpyX family and how I go over the ironic synergy between Fiona and your Forger and how they, even though they clash in the anime, they're very helpful and they work together to close the game out in the game of Weiss Schwarz. So I wanted to talk to you guys about this topic because it's something that's been kind of constantly hitting up on my own personal kind of feed, not on YouTube per se, but on Facebook. And a lot of times when people talk to me when they first get into either Weiss Schwarz, Pokemon, One Piece, or even Yu-Gi-Oh! I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! That much. In the past, I did get this question a lot. Mostly I get it now in Pokemon and in Weiss Schwarz. I usually ask people like some tips as I watch competitive One Piece videos, but this topic really was kind of needed, and I think this is important with any game, whether you play Weiss Schwarz, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, One Piece, heck, even if you play Magic the Gathering, Digimon, Hololive, TCG, because it's an important skill that is not skill, but an important practice that I think a lot of people, they don't take it fully, like really grasp the importance of it, because oftentimes we watch competitive play only just for the highlights and the best plays in the game, or sometimes when we watch live streams of those like trading card games, we find ourselves like getting a little angry at the plays, or even like backseat playing. But I think the term backseat driving in TCGs, I think, is a better turn of phrase. But I've noticed it very often that we often just use it as a means to entertain ourselves, but watching competitive gameplay really does help you understand. And it also helps if, especially, there's really good commentary surrounding it. Sometimes the commentary helps and sometimes it doesn't. So like if you're somebody that wants to just watch the plays and analyze it without having another talking head talk about it, that's great. There's some people that want that commentary just to hear either the players themselves give commentary of why they make those plays, or even just like professional players that are doing sidebar commentary, which is really helpful because it does kind of give you kind of a perspective. That's what I like about watching competitive plays, is because you gain a lot more perspective that just playing the game, like you just playing hours and hours and hours and hours play testing, tend to forget or tend to not notice. Because when you're in the driver's seat all the time, sure, you get a lot of experience, but you don't know necessarily, it's hard to track your own improvement, your growth, while you're in the act of growing. Sometimes taking the time to step out, like step back and watch other people, can allow you to see, hey, I haven't done that before, like help you kind of pull out some like valuable like lessons from it. Like, hey, I didn't do that before and I've encountered similar issues, like that kind of like insights. Oftentimes it's easier to find out like what we are missing by watching other people play, and that's something, it's a common practice that we see all the time Like, even as a teacher myself, I'm a former teacher. I was a former teacher. Like, before I even started teaching a class, so what's the first thing that they always tell us? We always watch, we observe. We have this thing called an O&P, which is observe and participate, where you observe as a spectator what's going on in the environment, in this situation, in the classroom for a teacher. In trading card games, it's watching competitive event, like a competitive match. You look at what's going on, you analyze the elements of it, and then you try to, in a sense, identify like what made it successful and what are some things you want to take away from it, like take in and try yourself. That's the same thing I would do with like when watching competitive gameplay, is that I will analyze the moves that the players are playing, whether there be like very seasoned pros or those that are just emerging into the competitive scene, and it just helps. Heck, even like going to your locals and just spectating like a couple games when you're not playing, just watching the top tables and quietly just analyzing what's going on, what are some of the plays being made, can really help you kind of gain insights on how to be a better, like how to make better decisions. A lot of times we don't know if a decision is like, and it's true even like when watching a competitive scene, like competitive, whether it be a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh match, a competitive Pokemon match, a competitive Weiss Schwarz match, or even a competitive One Piece match. Like, sometimes even a play that we think is correct may be wrong, because since we don't have the luxury of seeing what's in our opponent's hand, unless we like somehow record that match and then just look back at it, which is I guess I can talk, which is again goes back to my reflecting part, reflecting on TCG matches. Like, having that allows you to see whether that determine whether that move is perfect or not. But I think watching it from other people do it allows you to kind of gain insights on maybe some decisions that you think would be bad, but if you actually zoom out and actually watch what's going on from by watching another set of players going about that scenario, you kind of can see why maybe that either that was a bad decision at the time, but it turns out to be a good decision in the long run, or even like looking at like maybe your assumptions about it were wrong to begin with. Because oftentimes when we watch a game, especially if it's live streamed or even post, like it shows that we tend to kind of have a biased view. Like, we think our decisions are better, but after what like the best part about watching competitive match live is you get to see it unfold, and even in recorded you get to see it unfold, and it either can confirm your assumptions or disprove your assumptions. And oftentimes it requires a certain mindset in order to do that. And I always tell people, don't watch a competitive match, or like even when I teach other people when they do stuff in professional work, don't look at a environment or what you're observing to confirm assumptions. You want to keep your assumptions away, because oftentimes we can suffer from what we would know as confirmation bias, and that is like you can see that in everything, every endeavor we do. Like, every interaction and everything that we read, watch can sometimes give us affect us via where it affirms our conclusion because we experiencing confirmation bias. And sometimes, yeah, what happened may have, like, you may have predicted something and it did probably pan out the way you thought. That doesn't mean it's going to pan out all the time. It usually we make assumptions based on limited information, and then we fill in the gaps and justify it. And I think that's true with anything, especially in TCGs. I think TCG players, including myself, are the biggest victims of confirmation bias. We often, when we see our like rationale or reasoning behind a certain play turn out to be good at that moment, we start to think of it as like 100% principle. And that's what I like about watching competitive plays, is that it gives us an opportunity to see whether our thought process will be affirmed by the match results or the state of the game state that they're in, or be disproven, and we gain a new insight. So that's why I always say be willing to be wrong when you watch these gameplays. In fact, when I watch competitive Weiss, Schwarz, Pokemon, One Piece, and even Yu-Gi-Oh, I always look at it not as me trying to critique it, but me trying to see, okay, so this is what happens if I were to try this route that the player did. This is probably one of the many possibilities that could occur. And it gives me an insight. Okay, if I encounter this situation, let me try this action, and if it works, I'll repeat it again in future gameplay, in future matches where I encounter this scenario. Or I take a deeper look and seeing, okay, if it didn't work at this moment, what in the matches that I've seen in the past led to certain actions, favorable actions occurring. So sometimes you have to look at it from multiple perspectives, and I know it's going to be really tough and it takes a lot of time, but trust me, it is an important skill for you to learn this. I myself had spent days, hours, and even weekends just watching competitive Weiss, Schwarz, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or One Piece, depending on which event I'm trying to prepare for, just so I can understand the matchup. And it allows me to kind of see, okay, what certain way sequencing of plays would be more helpful for me, instead of just me playing it by ear. So watching competitive matches really does help you kind of just prepare for that, and it really does like give you this opportunity to understand like overall like the reality that not every decision is going to lead to the same result, but by watching competitive play you can kind of see one of the many possible results or game states that could occur if you play it the same way that the pro is playing, or the same way that that player is playing. It also gives you room to kind of glean in insight on maybe if you haven't thought about, for example, playing it a certain way, seeing it like, for example, if you haven't learned about how to, like when I was learning about how to play free Rin, I watched that gameplay of decks that play very similar to free Rin, or just watch straight up free Rin gameplay in Weiss, Schwarz. And decks that I usually look at that are similar, which is Goblin Slayer and Danmachi, as those are the ones that I'm familiar with. I would watch those competitive matches just to figure out how to sequence the using of the torch event, because sometimes people just think you just jam that thing and hope that you cancel, but there's actually a method to when you launch the event, when should you launch the event, and when you should hold back the event. And that requires you to understand both deck state and kind of like risk management. And that's how I kind of learned how to do better, like play better with that deck. And in fact, I'll show some gameplay in the future on how I play free Rin, because even I'm not perfect with the deck. I don't even consider myself perfect. I'm still learning the deck. But you could see where if you watch, you could tell like I watch a lot of gameplay based on how deliberately I use the event. I don't use it like willy-nilly. And you'll see how it works and what I usually do. Like there's some skills that I picked up, and I'll talk about it as I go about that game. So I think that's just about it with this topic of, I suggest like watching competitive, like again, I suggest you guys watch competitive TCG gameplay, whether it be you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh, you're playing One Piece, you're playing Weiss, Schwarz, you're playing Pokemon, you're playing Magic the Gathering, you're playing Digimon, etc., etc., etc. Like watching competitive play really does give you the an opportunity to grow in a very quick, I wouldn't say it's like you're not going to notice it right away, but it helps with your growth as a competitive player, and it did with me. And that's one of the reasons why, like, when we had the first remote nationals for the Japanese Weiss Schwarz, I did manage the top 16. I didn't even manage to even bubble bro, I think during 2019. Yeah, in 2019 I got pretty close. I think it was 2019 or 2020. I got really close to actually getting into the top cut. I got 9th place, so it's nothing to shrug about. The only reason why I did well at that event was because I studied for competitive gameplay, and I actually tried to borrow some of the decision makings that those players made into my own practice and made adjustments through constant practicing. So I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, crack that like button if you haven't, and I'll catch you guys later. Stay on point, guys, and peace out.